What matters isn't if people are good or bad. What matters is if they're trying to be better today than they were yesterday. You ask me where my hope comes from. That's my answer. I'm Rob Morrison. I'll be your convener today. This month, our new theme is looking at heaven on earth. And what better way to kickstart that than by delving into NBC's acclaimed existential comedy, The Good Place. Today, we'll be looking at how these philosophically oriented and existential type programs can help us cope with real problems and dilemmas in our own lives. And it'll feature Emily Fraser for the reflection. For those who may be new to UUFM, our mission is to be a diverse, evolving spiritual community, acting for a better world, while our vision is to be a vibrant, inclusive congregation, widely known as a safe haven and a force for social justice. We welcome all in our fellowship, no matter your background, creed, or other specifics. If you're new and in person, please seek out today's greeter, Mary Beth Reese, and say hello. I also invite everyone to write their joys and sorrows down on the papers near the center there. If you're in person or in the chat on Zoom, and we'll read them aloud later during the offertory. All right. So for our land acknowledgement today, this comes to us from a scene in The Good Place, where Michael, a Good Place architect, is trying to get Chidi, a philosophy professor, to branch out from his philosophy musings. So let's watch that clip, and it will be clear where The Good Place stands on land acknowledgements. Decidedly pro.
All of the mysteries like an explorer.
I see how that might be fun. But exploring makes me nervous. I have what doctors call directional insanity. I once got lost on an escalator. So, not exactly Christopher Columbus.
Fun fact, Columbus is in the bad place because of all the raping, slave trade, and genocide.
The fact that it makes you nervous is exactly why you should do it. You know, get out of your comfort zone. Become a trailblazer.
All right, so today's story is called What Do You Do with a Chance? It's written by Kobe Yamada and illustrated by May Bessem. Let's see what this story has for us. One day, I got a chance. It just seemed to show up. It acted like it knew me, as if it wanted something. I didn't know why it was here. What do you do with a chance? I wondered. It fluttered around me. It brushed up against me. It circled me as if it wanted me to grab it. I started to reach for it, but I was unsure and pulled back. And so it flew away. I thought about it a lot. I wished I had taken my chance. I realized I had wanted it, but I still didn't know if I had the courage. When another chance came around, I wasn't so sure, but I decided to try. I went to reach for it, but I missed and fell. I was embarrassed. I felt foolish. It seemed like everyone was looking at me. I decided I never wanted to feel this way again. So after that, whenever a chance came along, I ignored it. And the more I ignored them, the less they came around. Until one day, I noticed that I hadn't seen a chance in quite a while. It was as if they had all disappeared. I started to worry. What if I don't get another chance? I know I acted like I didn't care, but the truth was I did. I still wanted to take a chance, but I was afraid, and I wasn't sure if I would ever be brave enough. Then I thought, maybe I don't have to be brave all the time. Maybe I just need to be brave for a little while at the right time. I realized it was up to me. I promised myself that if I ever got another chance, I wasn't going to hold back. If I got another chance, I was going to be ready. Then, one seemingly ordinary day, I saw something shining far off in the distance. Is it possible? I hoped. Could this be my chance? I had to find out. I ran as hard and as fast as I could toward it. I don't know how to explain it, but the second I let go of my fears, I was full of excitement. It wasn't that I was no longer afraid, but now my excitement was bigger than my fear. As I got closer, I could see that this was a really huge chance. But this time I was ready. As it came by, I reached out and grabbed it. I held on with all my might. It felt so good to soar, to fly, to be free. I now see that when I hold back, I miss out. And I don't want to miss out. There's just so much I want to see and do and discover. So, what do you do with a chance? You take it, because it just might be the start of something incredible. Well, that's the end of that story. So, y'all can talk about it together if you'd like to, as we sing you back to your classrooms.
Okay, so now what bearing does this have? The video relates to how we might say in the UU world we live into covenant, and it does so on multiple levels. So on first glance, it's about the utilitarian dilemma of how to save some folks on a railroad track, knowing that utilitarianism exhorts one to maximize happiness for all, however one defines that. So on the other hand, we are considering the principles by which to live an ethical life and treat one in accordance to right relations. But in addition, the characters Chidi and Eleanor are having to deal with an additional layer of a difficult student, Michael, himself a literal demon, who gets wicked joy by torturing Chidi with the subject he loves the most, philosophy. So what is the proper response to such behavior? How do you deal with such behavior while maintaining covenant? If we continue with the show, we find that Chidi is clear that this kind of behavior is unacceptable and that Michael is no longer welcome in his class for ethics lessons. This was a situation that Michael was willing to live with until perversely Chidi would apologize to him, but Eleanor made clear that this is a scummy move reminiscent of her own behavior. And he needs to be the bigger demon and initiate the apology. However, Michael's first attempt at an apology is a poorly disguised attempt to buy his way back into the classroom with gifts, which Chidi does not accept. In the end, Michael admitted he felt inadequate in learning human ethics, so acted out against the teacher and genuinely apologized to Chidi, with the relationship and thus covenant restored. So through the arc of the episode, we can see UU relevant themes play out, even if it is in a show whose premise is a little bit far-fetched.
So Rob and I have been talking about tapping into the good place for Sunday service inspiration for a long time. And yet, now that the opportunity has presented itself, it has proven to be a far more challenging task than anticipated. You've heard of TMI, or too much information. Well, have you heard of TMI, too much inspiration? There was just too many directions you could go. This 4-season sitcom is just bursting at the seams with rich content that could inform any number of Sunday services on any number of themes. Perhaps in that way, it's better suited for communal viewing and discussion over a longer period of time, which, hey, if you're interested, we could totally arrange that. But for today, I'm trying to focus, and what I decided to try and focus on is that question posed by Chidi, what do we owe each other? And how this question and the relationship modeling amongst the characters in The Good Place provide some very real, if, extreme scenarios, but some very real and beautiful examples of what it means to engage in that practice of covenant with each other. So for those of you who haven't seen the show, you got a little bit of a glimpse into it with into the premise and flavor with the little trailer, and then a little more with the trolley problem scene. And you might have heard Rob call it's actually, I don't know that it's more broadly defined as an existential comedy. That's just a term that Rob and I invented to describe our shared favorite genre of things. But so for clarity's sake, I'm just going to flesh out the premise just a little bit more for those of you who might not have seen the show. So in the world of the show, the afterlife consists of the good place and the bad place. The good place is where good people go when they die, and the bad place is where bad people go when they die. And in this case, it's not a traditional like heaven, hell, whatever. There's not a specific, and as you saw Michael say, every religion got maybe about 5% right, but no one religion has it all figured out. And then there was the joke about this one guy, Doug Forsett, who got high on mushrooms and got like a really large amount of it, whatever. So the process, or the way in which good and bad people are sorted out, is using what is apparently a foolproof accounting system that assigns a point value to each and every action a person engages in their life. So there is an accounting department in sort of like a neutral zone, and they're responsible for tracking each human's points, as well as updating point values as new behaviors emerge or new variables come into play with the increasing complexity of human life on Earth. So they also have neutral Janets. You got to see Janet on this one. Well, there's neutral Janets in that neutral place that help with things. And there is also a judge who is consulted whenever something in the afterlife system comes into question. So in the good place, it's managed by a committee with, that sounds right, by a committee with the assistance of good Janets who have access to all the knowledge in the universe and are able to make anything appear on a moment's notice. And they make sure that everyone's needs and desires are met for all of eternity. And the bad place is managed by demons, and they have bad Janets to help them make sure everyone is as miserable as they can be. And one of the demons, Michael, who we met, is getting bored with the same old torture tactics and comes up with this new idea and gets permission from his superiors to try it out. And this novel approach is to create a good place neighborhood, specially designed for just 4 specific humans. And instead of the demons doing direct torture, the demons would develop scenarios around these 4 humans that would cause the humans to torture each other and themselves for all of eternity. All the while thinking that they're in the good place. The problem is, as Michael tries to do this, the humans always end up figuring out what's happening to them.
I don't know what she's talking about at all.
And helping each other become better people. So, meanwhile, outside of this very specific experiment, the complexity of human life on Earth has increased so rapidly that it's actually been hundreds of years since any human has made it to the actual good place, which none of these players seem to know until it's discovered. And this has a lot, and when we're talking about the complexity, it's like, for example, you go back thousands of years, some guy gets roses from his garden, brings them to his grandma, that's like positive however many points, it's a good thing, right? Well, now, you get roses to bring to your grandma, and there's like all of these different layers of negative things. It's like, well, there's the pesticide, and there's the emissions that from transporting it from one place to another. There's like, exploitative labor and all this other stuff. So it turns that what used to be a good thing into a bad thing. So it just makes it impossible for any human to make it into the good place. And yes, the consequences are, yes, from human-made systems, and the individual is choosing to interact with them, but they have very little control over, nor do they intend those consequences, nor are they necessarily even aware of them, so it makes it that much harder to figure out how to be a good person in the midst of all of that. And then we also find out later on that the actual good place isn't doing so great either, because they've been living in the good place, getting instant gratification for every thought or desire that they might ever have forever. And so they've turned into like happiness zombies, and they're over it. They're like, get us out of here. So apparently what you end up discovering in the course of this show is that the whole system is failing to serve its purpose effectively. And what they seem to discover is that the reason why it's not working is because of not really appropriately accounting for the complexity of human life, or appropriately accounting for the human capacity for growth and change over time. Because all of these humans in the good place, which is really the bad place, being tortured, constantly end up helping each other be better. And they are improving, even in the bad place. So, the humans, in alliance with a reformed demon and the support from the judge, which they had to put a lot of effort into convincing, propose a new system where humans who don't make the cut to good by the time they die go to a version of the bad place, but they are there really to learn how to be better. It's transitional. It's like, all right, so you just needed another chance, a little more time. And then eventually, once they make it to being good, then they go to the good place. And once they've had their fill of that good place, they can leave whenever they're ready, so that they don't turn into those zombies. It's an interesting system. So, this show beautifully embodies several key aspects of UU theology or philosophy, or whatever term is most comfortable for you. Our universalist heritage of rejecting the concept of hell or eternal damnation is strong. That's up in there. And as UUs, the premise that every religion only got about 5% right and no religion or person has it all figured out, we're more likely to have that ring true to our sense of reality rather than it challenging us. Maybe. It might challenge some of us, but as we watch the characters throughout the journey of the show, what becomes clear is that it's their relationships with each other that make them better people. So it's, in a way, it's covenant-centered, which, being a non-creedal religion, we're covenant-based, and as a congregation, that's not a word we're really used to using. But I think this is a great demonstration of, like, this is what we mean when we're talking about that. So what do we owe to each other? Asking that question, this is part of the practice of covenant. So I would like to suggest as a starting point that one thing we might owe to each other as members of this beloved community, to be clear, I don't think we necessarily can say that we owe it to every single person on earth at all times, and you'll get a little more about that in a second, but we owe each other a chance to be seen, a chance to be heard, a chance to be loved, a chance to serve, and a chance to grow. What do you do with a chance? So in the story that we read earlier, most people need more than one chance. That's pretty normal. And in the show, you can see that, in The Good Place, you see that too, because it takes a lot of lessons and tries, and let's do this again, for each of these 4 flawed people to figure out how to become better. And for everybody to figure out that this system is bonkers and we need to change it because it's not serving its purpose. But does that mean that we give each other infinity chances? And that doesn't quite sound right, because if someone's repeatedly doing harm, are we supposed to continue to let them do harm? This seems to be one of the things that's challenging for communities and people and just within relationships. Like, what does it mean to give someone a chance? But one of the things that I appreciate about the trolley problem is that a chance isn't just about letting people do things repeatedly. There's still an accountability piece that's sort of built into it. So with a chance, it's not a free pass. It requires good faith. And so when my goal is trying, you guys, I'm trying so hard. But with the relationship context, they're able to figure out, nah, you're just messing with us right now. He was not acting in good faith, and there was a boundary, and it was set, and it wasn't forever, but it was until you come back in good faith. So I really appreciated how they play that out in that particular episode. I think it's a great example of how to deal with some of the more difficult people or experiences or things that we experience as a society, as a community, and just with interpersonal relationships. So, in short, I like the idea that maybe one of the things that we could owe each other is a chance, and also that we owe it to each other to take that chance in good faith. So I decided to stop there because it's very hard to not go off on a lot of tangents. And I know that some of you have seen the show, and there might be some lively conversation or questions or whatever that might come up for people. So I'm interested in handing the mic over to you. Rob has the mic in the back, and we can also keep an eye out for potential comments from Zoom. So I'm interested in hearing people's thoughts, reactions, whatever.